Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Jay, and I'm one of the Grace Roots hosts for our monthly Be Strong talks. And tonight we have a very special guest, Carol Stevens, who's actually joining us from Celebrate Recovery. So, Carol, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody who I haven't seen since last month's talk. For a little bit more about Grace Roots, the host of this monthly talk and these Be Strong talks, you can check us out on Facebook. Just search for Grace Roots Pathways to Wellness, or go to our website, grace-roots.org. But without further ado, Carol, thanks for joining us from Celebrate Recovery this evening, and we're looking forward to hearing your story. So please go for it.
All right. So my name's Carol. I'm in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is I love myself today. I think that's the biggest thing. And I'm present, and a mom, and a grandma, and a friend, and a wife, and those are really impossible things when you're using methamphetamine. So 13 years ago, 4 months, and 20 days ago, I stopped using methamphetamine. But prior to that, I grew up in a home where cocaine, methamphetamine, alcohol was like a norm. So I pretty much grew up in a middle-class family. Everybody worked. I didn't really live in poverty or anything growing up, but there was just a lot of dysfunction at home, a lot of lack of emotional, any kind of emotional stuff going on at home. So my mom had me when she was 16 years old, and so I spent a lot of time with my grandma, who raised me. I didn't start using drugs until I was about 16 years old. I started drinking and smoking marijuana and skipping school and stuff like that. Prior to that, I was playing basketball, volleyball, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that somewhere around 18 or 19, I got introduced to methamphetamine. I graduated high school, went straight to college, and then in the middle of going to college and working a full-time job, I started using methamphetamine with my mom. And things, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on all of my methamphetamine use. I'm gonna give you a glimpse of it, but I really wanna talk about recovery and the things that I've done since then. So at 19, I started using meth pretty hardcore with my children's father. We got married in the middle of that, ended up getting 3 PCSs and got put into drug court. Actually, he got put into drug court before me, and sitting in drug court, I realized that, well, they told me I was an addict, and I didn't really understand what that meant at the time because I had lived in a lot of dysfunction most of my life. And so I just thought that I couldn't keep a job. And so if I could keep a job, then, I didn't have a problem. I learned a lot when I was in drug court. Drug court became the foundation of learning that I was an addict, that I was codependent, that I had a lot of issues. So I went through drug court, 17 months of drug court, graduated, and I ended up going back out. And when I went back out after drug court, I had a counselor in drug court that told me that if I didn't change my criminality and my homegirl mentality, that I was going to end up back out. And I didn't really believe her. I thought that, I took care of my drug addiction and I'm not using, I'm going to be fine. And so shortly after that, my marriage ended, or we split up, and I tried to get clean for about 8 months, and I ended up getting in a lot of trouble. and I got stabbed. And so when I got stabbed, it was probably a week before the last day that I used meth. I got on a bus and I went to California because I had charges here and I wanted to avoid any kind of repercussions for the guy who stabbed me because I had homegirl mentality. So I went down to California for about 4 months and I left my kids up here with my grandma, and I got a job and got off meth. And then I came back up here to visit my kids, and Leah Crease, I was wanted because I had charges that were pending, and Leah Crease talked me into an hour before I got back on the bus to go to California. She said, I wish I could take my heart out right now and you could feel what it feels like, because you wouldn't get on that bus and leave. And so I turned myself in an hour later to probation, and I was looking at a 90-day sanction on top of the charges that were pending. And my PO told me that I'll give you a deal if you go to the MOMS program and you do residential treatment, then I'll count that day for day for your sanction. In the midst, I still had like felon in possession of a firearm, identity theft, a bunch of charges. I don't even remember all of them. So in the midst of that, the stabbing came up, and I was asked to testify against him, and everything in me was always against that. That wasn't what you do, and I'd always lived differently. So that was really hardcore for me in the middle of being at the MOMS program and trying to do treatment. And the thing about being at the MOMS program for me at that time was I knew what I needed to do. I just didn't apply it. I was in drug court for 17 months. I knew how to stay clean. I knew my coping skills. I just chose not to use them. And so in the middle of all that, Leah had found the Lord. When I was sitting at the MOMS program, I said, obviously everything that I've tried to do on my own didn't work. And so I decided that, you know, maybe this God thing does work. You know, maybe turning my life over to the Lord, you know, maybe that'll change things for me. So I started asking for some books, and some mentors of mine that kind of walked me through my whole recovery brought me The Purpose-Driven Life to the MOMS program. And I didn't have kids at the MOMS program because my kids were too old to be there. So I never really got to leave. I was there like for 45 days and I never left the place. So I didn't get to go to church, and there wasn't a lot of believers there. So I just started reading The Purpose-Driven Life, and slowly but surely, I started thinking about God, you know, and I started thinking about praying. And I was going through a really difficult time because I was looking at this trial and testifying against a man that I wasn't exactly not scared of. And so I ended up having to go to Grants Pass a couple times for my court cases and stuff like that, and the grand jury and all of that kind of stuff. And through it all, I just started finding the Lord. I just started praying. There was times where my anxiety was through the roof at the MOMS program because I didn't know who I was. So who am I if I'm not that person that I've always been? Who am I if I don't keep criminal code? Who am I through all of that stuff? And so that was a long process. So the first 2 years of my recovery, I'd like to say, oh, it was great. And, you know, I found the Lord and everything was, you know, great. But the reality is it wasn't. It was probably the hardest 2 years of my whole entire life. So I ended up graduating the MOMS program and getting out, and the trial ended up happening. And in the middle of the trial, this is supposed to be a 3-day trial. one of the jurors got sick, and then something happened with another juror, and anyway, the trial ended up being done in like 2 hours, and he was sentenced, and it was over. And so that was a chapter of my life that he was gone for a while, and so I just started living my life and doing the things I needed to do. One of the biggest things that I did in my recovery at the beginning was I ended up learning that I needed to not be in a relationship. So I spent 2.5 years working on myself. My sponsor asked me one day when I thought I wanted to work out my marriage, if she told me to write down 5 things that I want out of a relationship. And then she asked me if I have those things. And I was like, no. And she's like, does he have those things? And I'm like, no. So I decided, like right in that moment, she said that was the drawing board of what you need to start with. And so one of the things I needed to start with was trusting myself, loving myself, communication, were some of the things that I wrote down on that. And so I just started working on those things. That was the things that I really needed to like start working on, was who I was and who I was if I wasn't that person that constantly went back to criminality or hanging out with those people. And so started doing that. And then in December of 2009, my new husband got out of prison, who we had been friends prior to him going to prison. And I told him that if he wanted to hang out with me, that he can come to Celebrate Recovery in church. And so I was like, okay, well, he's probably not going to do those things. So, but he kept showing up. And so we ended up getting together, and then we ended up getting married in 2011. And so I went back to school prior to him getting out. I decided right when I got out of the mom's program that I was going to go back to school, and because that's what I did before I started using. So I started college and I started working at Moving On at RCC and getting my associate degree. And then I got another associate degree. And then when I graduated, I was asked to work for On Track as a peer support specialist for DHS cases. So I was the bridge between DHS and treatment. So I did that for a while. And then I decided that halfway through that, I was going to get my bachelor's degree and work full time and become a counselor in training and go to school till 10 o'clock at night, 3 nights a week. So I started doing that. Rick actually called me in the middle of that and said, do you want to come work for me as a counselor? And I said, I don't really think that that's a good idea right now. I don't think that's fair to you guys or to me at this point in time, because I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree. And then 6 months later, a case management position came open for drug court that they had never had before. And drug court means a lot to me. So I took the job and started working for drug court and just learning. Really, I think that's really where I learned how to meet people where they're at and start to really develop myself as a counselor. And I just learned a lot through that process. One of the things that I think has been super important in my recovery is that you have to take care of yourself. And I've been to therapy. I'm in therapy right now. I think therapy is important. I think that everybody should get therapy and start just working on who you are and figuring out how to live in the moment and how to be present and take care of yourself, exercise, all of those kind of things. And I think through my recovery, I haven't always been good at that. I think I have kind of worked myself. One of the biggest things that I've learned recently is that I have had a lot of anxiety throughout my life. And I've learned how to maneuver anxiety to work for me, which isn't exactly the healthiest thing. sometimes when I get anxiety, it can motivate me to get something done faster and help me with deadlines and all of those kind of things. But I think that going to therapy and kind of learning that it's okay to just feel your feelings is really super important. So if you take away the methamphetamine, I had a lot of problems. I had abandonment issues growing up. I learned how to be codependent. I learned how to survive. And just surviving in life is not recovery. If you're just white knuckling it and keeping yourself super duper busy and not taking care of yourself, not eating right, not exercising, not seeing the positives in things, looking at adversities as your strengths and trying to figure out how you can get through them instead of walk around them, is super important. I recently resigned from being the drug court case manager, which was a really hard decision for me because I love drug court with all my heart. But I needed to take care of myself. Like I said earlier, I'm in therapy and I'm learning about myself and stuff like that. And I'm a wife and I tend to be a workaholic too. And I tend to put my whole heart into whatever I'm doing. And so learning how to balance my life and learning what it means to love myself and be okay with just sitting with myself. So it was a really scary decision for me. And I felt like when I left that I was going to not be okay with just being with myself because I'm so used to being so busy. And so I'm learning right now how to live in the moment. So exercise has been really super important for me. Being present in conversations, learning to balance my time. I found myself saying no. No is a complete sentence sometimes. When people want me to do stuff, I found myself just saying no, that's probably not something that I should do right now. And so I'm kind of just in that place of just trying to live in the moment and be peaceful. I feel very serene at this point in time in my life. It's probably not going to stay that way forever because I got to get a little bit more busier than I am right now. But I do find myself really not anxious and living for me and trying to figure out who I am in the process. I'm a grandma, so I get to spend a little bit more time with my grandkids. I think recovery is one of the hardest things that anybody could ever do. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of people think that the drugs are the problem, but really the reality is that everybody has problems. Some of us just choose to use drugs and to cope with them. And so I think that it's always really hard when you get clean and sober to try to figure out who you are. And when you're trying to figure out who you are, that kind of gets scary because there's a lot of uncertainty in trying to figure out and trust yourself in what you do and your decision making. And for me, I think that without having mentors, without having people walk alongside me and tell me for real, you know, what I need to do and being straight up with me has been really super important. I can talk circles. I'm a good talker. And I need somebody that's going to tell me how it is sometimes because I need to hear that. I need to hear when I'm messing up, and I appreciate that. I appreciate, not always, it's not always easy. I mean, there's times that there's been some constructive criticism that I've been like, I didn't really want to hear that, but it's helped me grow. It really has. And I think that another important aspect of recovery is being surrounded by other people that are doing the same things that you're doing, because days are tough. You know, if you don't wake up in the morning and ask yourself, what am I feeling today? You know, am I feeling anxious today? And knowing that that's the lens that you're looking through the day, it helps things not be so rocky. So I'm trying to be super purposeful in the morning about where I'm at what I'm doing. I'm super blessed right now. Every morning I get to hang out with my husband, which I didn't get to do before. I was always racing out the door because I had to be to work. So, reflecting on goals and the things that I want to do. And I believe that if you don't have things to look forward to or get excited about, or you don't figure out what you love to do, then you're probably not going to make it. Because if you're just trying to stay clean and sober and go to your classes or do recovery through an agency, which, don't get me wrong, you need to do that because that needs to give you the foundation, but you need to figure out what you love. Like, if you don't figure out what you love in life and what's going to make you sparkle, then why are we in recovery? Because if you're miserable in recovery, you're not doing something right. So I think that trips, taking vacations, going and seeing waterfalls, anything that, whatever it is that you love to do is important. And so finding ways to have fun, date nights, going to roller coasters. I'm thinking about skydiving. I haven't quite completely got there yet, but it may be something that we may do. I mean, me and my friend Misty want to go, but our husbands are a little bit on the other side of it. But yeah, like, having fun in recovery is super important. Exercise. I can't emphasize enough how getting up in the morning and exercising changes everything about your attitude. It gets the endorphins going. It's important. I've really been taking care of myself lately and exercising a lot. And I think it has a lot to do with why I am doing better, why my mental health is better, because I can tend to get focused on something and not take care of myself in that way, or not eat right. There's been times where I went home, sat on the couch, and fell asleep like right as soon as I sat down, because I emotionally drained myself, not because of anybody else, but because of me, because I try to like do more. And I think that's been kind of a little bit of the motto in my life, is that I try to stay really super busy. And I think at times when I've tried to stay really super busy, that I haven't taken care of myself the best that I can. I haven't been the best. Hence why I'm kind of in this season right now of just kind of taking care of myself. I'm looking at getting my master's degree, so I'm probably going to start going to school. But I'm not working as much as I was. I'm probably only working about 25 hours a week right now. So I'm thinking about taking a couple of classes and getting my master's degree. And continually, I want to be a therapist at some point in time. I think that that's my calling. I think I'm good at those things. So that's a goal that I have. In the meantime, I'm just trying to live in the moment and be purposeful in the things that I do. And I love it. I love that I finally have time to sit with me. I was worried about being home because my husband kind of works a little bit later. And so being home and being by myself, that was kind of scary for me when I first made this decision, because I was like, what am I going to do with myself if I'm just sitting there, with myself? And really, it hasn't been an issue. I've actually taken the time to do a lot of good things for myself, write goals, start thinking about the thing, 5-year plans that we want to do, taking care of, budgeting, looking, buying a house. We're going to Hawaii for our 10-year anniversary, which I'm super excited about. Counting down the days. I think it's less than 60 days now. And we have an opportunity to go to the Philippines as long as they open it up to work for a month. So I'm kind of excited about that as well. I think that adversity equals strength. And I think that everybody has some kind of adversity that's happened in your life. And sometimes it's hard to take that adversity and look at those hardships and realize that they're actually where you grow, Sometimes when we look at situations, they seem hard to bear, that can't really get through them. But if I look back at everything that has ever happened to me in my life and all of the things that I've went through, I can tell you that they've shaped me into the person that I am today, and without them, I wouldn't be who I am today. I don't think that I would have been as good of a counselor if I hadn't went through some of the things that some of my individuals were talking about. I don't think that I would have been able to meet those people where they're at. I felt really blessed that I got to work on a team, the drug court team, and people, and sit at a table that people once talked about me at, and people listened to me and respected my advice and the things that I suggested. That shaped me, that built my confidence, that made me realize that everything that I've ever been through and the struggles was actually, I wouldn't say worth it, but God turned my mess into a message. And he continues to do that on a daily basis. And I owe everything that I have today to him. I mean, my marriage, everything is based on God. There's a foundation of God underneath everything that I do. And if I wouldn't have had that, I don't think that I'd have the heart that I have. I don't think I'd be able to meet people where they're at. I don't think that I would have as much love in my heart that I do, because the people that, even when I couldn't grasp the idea of giving everything to God, there was people alongside me that helped me understand that was the right thing to do and that things were going to work out. I go to Celebrate Recovery. I've been in leadership for around 8 years. Prior to that, I guess it's been longer than that, probably like 10 years. And prior to that, I ran the literature table. And I've worked my steps. I think this is my 6th or 7th time through a step group. Steps are important. That's another thing. Like I said, drugs are a third of the problem. We have issues. And so learning to take care of those issues, if you're struggling, or if you feel like, there's things that are taking over your life, if they're not drugs, then they're probably some of your issues. If you're feeling like you have to take care of somebody else to make yourself feel okay, probably codependent, probably need to take a look at that. It's okay to feel, that was the biggest thing for me. It's okay to feel. And when you feel, if you sit through it and you work through it, then you actually get through it. And if you don't, then you just keep pushing it over to the side. And it's kind of like I used to tell my individuals, it's like an emotional credit card. I'm going to give you this emotional credit card, and you can charge to it every time you don't want to feel something, but it's going to come with interest later, and you're going to have to deal with all of it at once. And so I'm trying really, really hard not to do that anymore. That's one of the things I'm really focusing on. If I'm feeling sad, then I want to identify that I'm feeling sad. I learned recently that, the anxiety is something that I cover every emotion I have with. When I'm anxious, then it's because I'm sad or I'm angry or I have something going on. And when I start to get super busy, then I'm trying to avoid some kind of feeling. And so those are the struggles that I have today. It's not that I'm going to go out and use methamphetamine because I'm feeling a certain way. I've just learned how to maneuver through other things, staying busy and all those kind of things. And I'm thankful today that I can recognize that, and I'm able to actually start working through, any kind of feeling. And I think that when people start to, or when I start to feel out of balance, that it's really something I got to take a look at. I always think that it's important to look at that pie chart and look at how much time you're spending doing whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're spending more time on one thing than you are your recovery or your spirituality, then you probably need to take a look at that. So yeah, I think that recovering addicts, and I might be a little biased, are the strongest people on earth. I think that they actually go to the lengths to take care of themselves and look at the things that they have going on. And I don't think that everybody gets that opportunity. And it is an opportunity, no matter how big the struggle is. it's an opportunity that you get to sit in those groups, or you get to sit somewhere and you get to talk about the stuff that you're doing because you're actually working on it. And so my advice to anybody that's still struggling, if you are worried about judgment or people thinking that that you're a bad person, the reality is you're not. If you're sitting in those rooms and you're trying to do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, you're a superstar, because that takes a lot of work. It's not easy to be in recovery, and it's not easy to get up every day and say, today I'm gonna be a better person, 1% better every single day, and when you have love in your heart and you share that with other people, even a smile, that's because you're working on something inside of you that you can generate that. And if you generate positivity, you're going to get positivity back. And so if you're in recovery, be in recovery and be happy. We're not in recovery to survive because we survived in our addiction. We're in recovery to thrive. And so whatever that takes to thrive, do it. What do you love to do? Are you looking forward to something once a week, once a month? Because you need to look forward to things, because if you're not, then you're just surviving. And so that's about all that I got.
Well, thank you, Carol, for sharing your story. Yes, a little silent round of applause since everybody's still muted at the moment. But
Yeah.
So you mentioned that those that are in recovery are the strongest people in the world. What a perfect message for our Be Strong talk tonight. So thank you for that. So for those of you that are live on the Zoom meeting, feel free to unmute yourself, and let's give Carol some comments and questions.
Why, sure. Carol, what a privilege and a gas to be able to watch you grow. One of the privileges I have of growing old in this community is that I get to see people at their worst and at their best. And I want to thank you for that. I try not to miss that because it fuels me as I continue to do this work. And I agree with you. I think that once you find recovery, there's so much power, because it's such a paradox, because there's power in powerlessness. The more you learn how powerless you are, the more powerful you become as a human being in this world and in this recovery. And the normal Joe out there in the world doesn't know what that's like. That's what makes us strong. There used to be this poster out many years ago that said, it was a postage stamp, and it had a shriveled up, dope fiend on the front of it, and on the top of it was perseverance, and at the bottom it said the American junkie. And I wish I still had that, because it's such a powerful sign, and because we persevere. And if you get to hang around this long enough, you get to see people like you that have really grown and taken the program and used it in their lives, and made decisions based on what was good for them. And so I respect that, and it's been really good to be able to watch you grow in your recovery. So thanks for sharing that with me.
Thank you.
So yeah, Carol, God is good.
All the time.
All the time, God is good. You've been an inspiration to me. You've gotten to know me over this last year, and I always come home after you and I talk, and our conversation just completely plays over and over in my head. There's so many pearls of wisdom there, and you've been pivotal in my life to get to the point that I'm at now. And I love you. Thank you for tonight. I went into Choices today, and I saw that you were speaking tonight, and I just knew I had to be here. So thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, I love you too, Carol. And It's amazing how like you can know something, and even though you know it, it takes somebody else sometimes saying it out loud to make you register it, you know, and that happens with me all the time. So I know even though I'm really struggling right now, like remembering some of the things that you say, like especially with like me procrastinating on starting my first step, like I know that I do and that I should right away, I can start processing all the stuff I'm going through, and you know, it'll help get me through it. And then like I also think, well shit, maybe I should try to take a trip. Even if it's just a drive down to the coast or something. Like I haven't done anything fun. It's like all business all the time. It's like my self-care is staying at home and trying not to go anywhere, which is not a lot to look forward to. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the words of wisdom there, you know, and I do miss you because you're full of words of wisdom. And but thank you, because now I get to hear it a little bit more again, and it's a reminder of the things that I can should look forward to.
Yes. Very important for self-care, Brittany. I can't, that's one of the biggest things that you got to take care of yourself. You can do all the work, but take a break and give yourself credit, because it's hard work. It's not easy. It's emotionally draining to look at all the wreckage and all the damage and stuff, and you just have to take care of yourself. So that's super important. And I'm really thankful that I got to see you guys on here tonight, because I do miss you too. I miss you a lot.
Yeah, I would be going to CR more, but I'm working night shifts now. So, like, all those things I can't do right now. But I'm thinking about changing my employment, and I have been looking. So maybe when that happens, I can get back to being in person in meetings and hopefully having a more healthy environment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments out there? All right, well, Carol, thanks again. Any final comments from you, Carol?
No, just thank you for letting me share, and it was good to see all of you guys.
Good to see you. Good to see you too. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And just a reminder for everybody that we have our this has been recorded and it'll be put up on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and type in Grace Roots Be Strong, and you'll see our previous Be Strong talks and our YouTube channel. Thanks again, Carol, for sharing your story. Great story. And everybody have a great night. Be safe, and we'll see you next month. We've been doing these on the second Thursday of each month, and so hopefully we'll see you at this time next month. So good night and God bless.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.